Hey everybody, it's Ron from Pick Dawgz, and this is Ron's Rundown. We're going to go over the MLB games scheduled for Wednesday, September 4th, 2024. And if you like what you see, make sure to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to put your baseball picks in the comments section below. And if you're looking for my best bets, including my daily rundown best bet in the MLB, you can find those at the Premium Picks tab at pickdawgz.com. There's also a link in the description. Alrighty, here we go. Here are the games for Wednesday, Major League Baseball. First up, the Philadelphia Phillies and the Toronto Blue Jays. We got Christopher Sanchez and Bowden Francis on the mound. We mentioned that Bowden Francis is in great form right now, and that continued in his last start against the Red Sox. He went 7 innings of shutout baseball, only had 5 strikeouts, but no walks, no home runs, only 1 base hit, and the Blue Jays have now won his last 4 starts. He's given up 2 earned runs or fewer in his last 5 starts. He has been one of the hotter pitchers in baseball recently, and it's tough to go against him in this matchup. I mean, the Phillies, tough lineup on paper, but in the last month, they've not been great against right-handed pitching. Christopher Sanchez on the other side has given up a lot of sharp contact recently. 2 more home runs given up in that last game against the Braves. I got to roll with the Blue Jays in this game on the money line at Rogers Center. Next up, the Chicago White Sox taking on the Baltimore Orioles. Jonathan Cannon and Albert Suarez are your starters. Another game in this series where I just don't see a ton of value. I'll be staying away from it, but I'll lean towards the Orioles laying 2.5 runs to try to get a better price. And, Suarez is in solid form. He pitched pretty well in that last game against the Rockies. 7 innings, 8 base hits given up, but it was at Coors Field. Only 2 runs given up in a 5-3 Orioles win. And with Jonathan Cannon on the other side, he was pitching well in June and July, had a sub-4 ERA in both of those months, but in the month of August, that ERA went up to above 6, and I just can't trust him in his current form. I got to roll with the Orioles here, laying the 2.5 runs at Camden Yards. Next up, the Houston Astros taking on the Cincinnati Reds. Spencer Arrighetti and Nick Martinez are your starters. I've mentioned many times this season and in previous years, I don't consider Nick Martinez a viable starting pitching option at the major league level. I just think he's a much better reliever, and in this spot, I got to fade him. I mean, he's had many starting pitching opportunities recently, and it's not gone too well for Cincinnati. They're 1-4 in his last 5 starts. He gave up 4 earned runs and 2 home runs in that last game against Milwaukee. I could see similar numbers in this game against a tough Astros lineup. And Spencer Arrighetti on the other side pitching really well for Houston. He had a rough start to his season and his MLB career, but he's been much better in the second half of the year, kind of similar to Hunter Brown, who had a miserable start to the season. Arrighetti flirted with a no-hitter in that last game against the Phillies and went 7 2/3 of shutout baseball with 11 strikeouts by the end of that game, a 10-0 Astros win. They've won 3 of his last 4 starts. I'm going to go with the Astros in this one on the money line and run line. In our next game, we go to the NL East as the Nationals take on the Marlins. We're going to see Mackenzie Gore and Valente Bellozo as the starters. Gore was struggling quite a bit, but his last 2 starts, nice bounce-back outings against the Braves and the Yankees. Not easy lineups to face, but he went a combined 12 innings of 3-run ball, 10 strikeouts. Not, a little bit less than a strikeout per inning, but still definitely trending in the right direction. Now you're facing a weak lineup here in the Marlins. I think Gore can put together another quality start, and Bellozo's not in good form on the other side. His start to the season wasn't too shabby, but now we see his ERA above 4 on the year. I think it continues to climb, and I think the Nationals win this game. Give me Washington on the money line. Next up, the Minnesota Twins taking on the Tampa Bay Rays. Pablo Lopez and Taj Bradley are your starters. Taj Bradley was pitching really well for Tampa Bay, but now in his last 5 games, he has really struggled. He's given up 5+ runs in 4 of his last 5 starts, and the Rays are 1-4 in those games. A lot of sharp contact and home runs, and the strikeout numbers are starting to, not be as consistent as they once were. I think Lopez is the much better option in this game. It's kind of the opposite for Pablo Lopez, who had a miserable start to the season, but now he's in great form in the most important time of the year. I mean, his last 3 games, all shutouts against the Rangers, Cardinals, and Blue Jays. Not necessarily the toughest of lineups, but the Rays aren't really tough either. So I think Lopez can go 6-7 strong innings. I think the Twins back him up and get to Bradley. I think the Twins win this game on the money line. Next up, the Boston Red Sox taking on the New York Mets. We're going to see Tanner Houck and Tyler McGill as the starters. This is a tough one for me because, Tanner Houck pitched well in that last game against Detroit, but also gave up 6 earned runs the previous start against Arizona. He's been a little bit inconsistent recently, and the Red Sox are just 1-4 in his last 5 games, while McGill, he pitched well in his first start back at the major league level, 5 1/3 of 1-run ball with 5 strikeouts, but that was against the Chicago White Sox. We know the weakest lineup in baseball. Now it's a much tougher matchup here against Boston. I'm going to lean towards the over and the Red Sox in this game. I do think Houck is the better option, But a game I think is going to be pretty entertaining. A game you'd probably rather watch as a fan than as a bettor, but I'll lean towards Boston in the over. Next up, the Rockies and the Braves. We got Bradley Blaylock and Charlie Morton as your starters. Blaylock was pitching pretty well in his first 3 starts as a Rocky, but that last game against the Marlins, 6 earned runs given up, 9 base hits, and a 12-8 Marlins win. And that was at Coors Field. Now he's on the road here. Should be a little bit of a better spot, but I still think the Braves have the better lineup and the better bullpen, as well as a superior starting pitcher in Charlie Morton, who's been inconsistent this year, but is pitching a lot better recently, giving up 3 earned runs or fewer in his last 4 starts. His strikeout number starting to pick it up as well, and the Braves have won 3 of his last 4 games. I'm going to roll with the Braves here on the run line, but don't see a ton of value in a game like this. Next up, we see the Guardians and the Royals in the AL Central. We got Ben Lively and Seth Lugo on the mound. Seth Lugo obviously having a strong season overall, 14-8 record, 3.12 ERA. He was a great pickup for the Royals in the offseason. Now, recently, he's been a little bit inconsistent. We saw in the month of August had an ERA of 4.91, had a couple of bad outings thrown in there against the Twins and the Phillies, but I still think he's a solid option overall for Kansas City. He's faced the Guardians a couple of times this year. He's had mixed results in those games. Gave up 5 runs in one of those starts, but that was at Progressive Field. The only Kauffman Stadium outing against Cleveland was a really good outing. 6 innings of 10 strikeouts, shutout ball in a 6-2 Royals win. I think Lugo could put together a solid quality start. And Ben Lively, we've mentioned the regression concerns in his game. We're starting to see it. 6 earned runs given up against the Pirates in that last game in only 4 1/3 innings. I think the Royals can get to him for a few runs and home runs in this game. I like Kansas City to win it. Even though they're not in the best form, I like the Royals' chances in this game. Next up, we'll go to the NL Central as the Pirates take on the Cubs. Bailey Falter and Shota Imanaga are your starters. We've talked about how this Cubs lineup has been outstanding recently, and that includes against left-handed pitching, where they're top 5 in team OPS in the last month. And Bailey Falter, not my favorite option on the mound for Pittsburgh. We saw him give up 4 earned runs in that last game against the Guardians. Makes it 9 earned runs. His last 2 starts combined with 13 base hits to go with it. I think Chicago gets to him early and often. Imanaga's pitching well on the other side for the Cubs, and the Pirates have not been great against lefties offensively. I think Chicago wins this game and covers the run line at Wrigley Field. We stay in the NL Central as the Cardinals take on the Brewers. Sonny Gray and Colin Ray are your starters. Now, on Tuesday, we thought Sonny Gray was going to be the starting pitcher. They moved him to Wednesday. I mentioned the struggles on the road for Sonny Gray this season. He's been much better at Busch Stadium, and especially recently, where he's given up in his last 2 starts on the road, 11 earned runs in 11 innings, 2 blowout losses for St. Louis. Colin Ray may not be in the best form for Milwaukee, but they've been backing him up. I mean, they've won 4 of his last 5 games, and the bullpen's superior for Milwaukee as well. In the last month, top 5 in xFIP, a solid ERA. St. Louis ranked in the 20s in terms of the expected numbers. I'm going to go with the Brewers here on the money line. Next up, the New York Yankees and the Texas Rangers. Marcus Stroman and Nathan Eovaldi are your starters. We know Stroman was struggling towards the end of July into the month of August in his first start against the Blue Jays, but since that one bad outing against Toronto, he pitched well in the rest of the month. I mean, his ground ball to fly ball ratio improved. He didn't give up a single home run in August, and the Yankees are starting to win his games. I think, I'm willing to back up here against a pretty weak Rangers lineup. And Nathan Eovaldi's pitched well himself, recently, but he has a much tougher matchup. I mean, the Yankees are number 2 in baseball in the last 30 days in team OPS against righties. Great power numbers, a high walk rate, low strikeout rate. And Eovaldi, his last 2 home games, 12 innings combined of 9 base hit, 8 earned run baseball with 3 home runs to go with it. So he's pitched better at Globe Life Field this season overall, but not so much recently. Give me the Yankees in this game on the money line. Next up, the Los Angeles Dodgers and the Los Angeles Angels. We got Bobby Miller and Griffin Canning on the mound. Bobby Miller has struggled in 2024. It's been a disappointing season for him, but his last 2 games, both Dodgers wins and run line covers, he's definitely trending in the right direction with 2 decent outings there, and I think he's the better option in this game. I mean, Griffin Canning, we know he's not been great this season, ERA above 5. The Angels have lost his last 4 starts, and their offense has not been great. Their bullpen's not been great. I think the Dodgers have the big advantage in this game, so they're a big favorite for a reason. I'm going to lay the 1.5 runs with the Dodgers on the run line. Next up, the San Diego Padres hosting the Detroit Tigers. We got Yu Darvish and Kiter Montero on the mound, and Yu Darvish may be the better starting pitching option on paper in this game, but he hasn't pitched at the major league level since May 29th, and he had 1 rehab start, but that was back in June 19th. He struggled, obviously was still injured after that game, And now we fast forward to September 3rd or September 4th, and he, hasn't had a rehab start. He had one simulated game against minor league hitters last week, but I think there's a lot of uncertainty with Darvish in this spot, and at this kind of price tag, I think the value lies with the Tigers, especially because Kiter Montero has improved his game. His numbers on paper overall this season aren't the best, but his last 5 starts, he's given up 3 earned runs or fewer in 4 of those 5, and Detroit has won 4 of his last 5 games as well. I'm going to take a shot here with the Detroit Tigers plus the 1.5 runs on the money line in this one. Next up, the Mariners and the Athletics in the AL West. We got George Kirby and J.P. Sears on the mound. Now, J.P. Sears pitched well in August. He had a 3.06 ERA, and that's despite one really bad outing against the Brewers where he gave up 5 earned runs in just 3 2/3. But he was really sharp the rest of the way in the month, and I think he pitches well against a weak Mariners lineup. George Kirby's not been the best on the road this season. He's not in the best form. He saw him give up 5 earned runs and 3 home runs to the Angels of all teams in that last start. I'm going to roll with the Athletics in this game on the money line. Next up, we see the Arizona Diamondbacks taking on the San Francisco Giants. Zach Gallen and Hayden Birdsong are your starters. Zach Gallen wasn't his best in that last game against LA, but that was also against the Dodgers, one of the toughest lineups in baseball, at Chase Field, a hitter-friendly ballpark. Now you're on the road at a pitcher-friendly ballpark like Oracle, facing a Giants team that in the last month, 27th in team OPS against right-handed pitching. I think it's a much better matchup for Gallen. I think he bounces back. Hayden Birdsong on the other side, I think he's a lot of potential. He's got good strikeout stuff, but his control is off right now. He's had 3+ walks in 4 of his last 5 games. The Diamondbacks in the last month, number 1 in team OPS against righties, number 1 in isolated power, and the key, 11.1% walk rate is also the highest in baseball. They could take advantage of Birdsong if his control's off early in this game, get his pitch count up, and get him out of the ball game. So give me the Diamondbacks in this one on the money line. And that's it. Those are the games for Wednesday in baseball. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe. Put those baseball picks in the comment section below. And again, if you're looking for my best bets, you can find those at Pick Dawgz Premium. As always, this is Ron Romanelli. Good luck.